I found out my husband was cheating on me with my best friend, so I drained our joint account, sold his car while he was at her place, and mailed the pink slip to her parents. Now they're both homeless, jobless, and blocked from every couch in town. The notification popped up on our shared iPad while I was helping our daughter with her homework. Can't wait to feel you again tonight. 2 hearts emoji, from Michelle. My best friend Michelle. My maid of honor Michelle. The woman who held my hand through labor Michelle. I knew before I even opened the message thread what I would find, but I looked anyway, scrolling through weeks of explicit messages, photos, timestamps that matched every late night at the office and weekend conference. They'd been meeting at her apartment, at hotels, in his car parked behind the grocery store where I sent him for milk. The rage that filled me wasn't hot. It was arctic, calculating, the kind that makes you smile while you plan someone's complete destruction. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I became a machine of pure vengeance. That night, while he slept beside me, probably dreaming of her, I transferred every penny from our joint savings and checking accounts into my personal account. $63,000. Our daughter's college fund stayed untouched, but everything else was mine now. He'd never bothered to check the accounts, that was my job in our marriage. By morning, I'd also maxed out the cash advances on our joint credit cards and moved that money too. He woke up to my kiss on his cheek and my cheerful reminder about his business trip the next day. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, supposedly heading to the airport but actually to Michelle's place based on his location sharing he forgot to turn off, I called the tow truck. I had his spare keys, the title, everything I needed. I sold his precious BMW to a dealer who asked no questions when I offered it for half its value in cash. $25,000 in $100 bills felt like justice in my hands. Then I did something particularly cruel. I mailed the bill of sale to Michelle's parents with a note, "Thought you should know what your daughter has been doing with my husband. They'll probably need a place to stay soon." Michelle's parents were religious fundamentalists who still paid her rent because they thought she was saving herself for marriage. The photocopies of their sex I included probably changed their minds about that. Meanwhile, I was busy destroying his professional life. Ryan worked for my uncle's construction company. One phone call explaining the situation, and Ryan was out. My uncle had already been looking for an excuse. Ryan was cocky, lazy, and only had the job because of me. The termination letter was waiting in his email before lunch. I texted Michelle from a burner phone with screenshots of their conversations. "He's all yours now. Hope he was worth it." Then I texted him, "Check your bank account. Check your email. Check the driveway. Michelle's parents know everything? Don't come home." I threw his belongings onto the lawn, sent photos to everyone in our friend group with the caption "Free stuff, cheaters special," and watched through the window as neighbors picked through his things like vultures. His golf clubs went first. The guy across the street took his entire wardrobe. The beauty was in the timing. Michelle's parents kicked her out that same morning, right when Ryan showed up at her door in an Uber because his car was gone. She lost her job at the Christian preschool by noon when anonymous screenshots arrived at her workplace. They had nowhere to go. Her parents had already called every relative warning them about their fallen daughter. His family was in another state and had never liked how he treated me anyway. Our mutual friends? I'd already poisoned that well with evidence of their betrayal. Within 3 days, they were sleeping in the last motel that would take a credit card he'd hidden from me. It declined on day 4. Michelle tried to get her apartment back, but her parents had already paid to break the lease. Ryan applied for jobs, but in our small town, word traveled fast. Nobody wanted to hire the guy who cheated on his wife with her best friend and got caught. They became ghosts, existing on the margins of the life they destroyed. But here's where I need to be honest about what this revenge cost me. Our daughter saw everything. She watched her mother become a monster of rage, spreading destruction like wildfire. She heard me on the phone, cackling as I described their downfall to anyone who would listen. She saw me refreshing Michelle's social media obsessively, screenshotting every desperate post about needing help. The light in my daughter's eyes dimmed as she realized both her parents were capable of such cruelty. "Mommy," she asked one night, 2 weeks into my Scorched Earth campaign, "why did you have to hurt them so bad?" I told her they deserved it. I told her they hurt me first. I told her this was justice. But she just looked at me with eyes too old for her 7 years and said, "But now everyone's hurt. Even me." She was right. The other kids at school had heard their parents talking. She'd become the girl with the crazy mom and the cheater dad. We'd made her collateral damage in our war. The high of revenge lasted exactly 3 weeks. That's how long it took for the adrenaline to fade and the reality to sink in. I was sitting in an empty house, counting cash I couldn't legally keep, while my daughter refused to come out of her room. The money felt dirty in my hands. Every dollar was tainted with the knowledge that I'd become exactly the kind of person I'd always despised: vindictive, cruel, someone who weaponized pain. Ryan started sending letters since I'd blocked his number. Not apologies, not at first, but threats. He was going to sue me for theft. He was going to fight for custody. He was going to expose every secret I'd ever told him. But by the fifth letter, he was broken. "I'm living in my car," he wrote. "Michelle left me for someone who could actually provide for her. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Please, just let me see our daughter." I burned the letter and felt nothing. The numbness was worse than the rage had been. My uncle called to tell me Ryan had been hospitalized. Apparently, he'd been beaten up trying to sleep in the park. 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and no insurance because I'd cancelled it along with everything else. "You satisfied now?" my uncle asked. "The boy's destroyed. Michelle's turning tricks according to the rumors. This what you wanted?" It wasn't, but I couldn't admit that. I'd gone too far to show weakness now. The legal consequences started rolling in. Ryan's lawyer, some public defender he'd managed to get, filed charges for theft and destruction of property. Turns out, draining joint accounts and selling his car without his consent was actually illegal, regardless of my name being on everything. My lawyer, who cost $500 an hour that I was paying with stolen money, told me I'd probably have to pay restitution. "You had the moral high ground," she said, "and you threw it away for revenge." Our divorce proceedings became a circus. The judge was horrified by both of us. Ryan for his infidelity, me for my response. But infidelity isn't illegal, theft is. I was ordered to return the money from the accounts and pay him half the value of the car I'd sold. The cash advances I'd taken out? Those were considered marital debt. We'd both be paying those off for years. The judge's words still echo: "You've both acted like children, and an actual child is suffering for it." My daughter started therapy, but she wouldn't talk about feelings. She'd just draw pictures: houses on fire, families separated by black scribbles, herself tiny and alone in the corner. The therapist said she was processing trauma that would affect her ability to trust for the rest of her life. "Children learn how to love from their parents," she told me. What has she learned from this? The friends who'd initially supported me started pulling away. The story was too ugly, too raw. Nobody wanted to be associated with the woman who'd gone nuclear. Mothers whispered at school pickup. Playdates dried up. We became social pariahs, not because of what Ryan did, but because of how I'd responded. "You could have just divorced him," one former friend said. "You didn't have to destroy him." I started stalking Michelle online from fake accounts. She'd moved 3 towns over, was working at a gas station, living with 4 roommates in a rundown apartment. Her posts went from defiant to desperate to nothing. Her last update was selling her grandmother's jewelry for rent money. I screenshotted it, saved it, looked at it whenever I felt weak. This was my handiwork. I'd done this. Ryan eventually got a job at a warehouse, night shift, minimum wage. He lived in a studio apartment on the bad side of town. He'd aged 10 years and 3 months. When we crossed paths at the grocery store, he looked through me like I was a ghost. Maybe I was. I'd killed the version of myself that could feel compassion, that could forgive, that could model grace for my daughter. The house felt like a mausoleum. Every room held memories of the family we'd been, the future we'd planned. I'd won the house in the divorce, but it was a hollow victory. The mortgage was crushing without Ryan's income, and I couldn't sell it for what we owed. I was trapped in a prison of my own making, surrounded by the ghosts of better times. My daughter asked to live with my mother. Just for a while, she said, but we both knew she meant forever. She couldn't stand being in the house where her mother had planned such elaborate destruction. The day she left, rolling her little suitcase to my mother's car, she turned back and said, "I wish you just cried instead." My mother wouldn't look at me. She'd raised me better than this, and we both knew it. It's been a year now. I live alone in a house I can't afford, working 2 jobs to pay for lawyers and debt and the mortgage on a home that feels like a tomb. My daughter visits every other weekend, but she's formal with me, polite like you'd be with a dangerous stranger. She calls my mother mom sometimes, catches herself, but the damage is done. I gave up my right to that title when I chose revenge over her well-being. Ryan killed himself 3 months ago. The note he left was brief: "I'm sorry for everything. Tell our daughter I loved her." He'd been living in his car again after losing the warehouse job for missing too many shifts. Nobody had known how bad it had gotten. Or maybe nobody cared anymore. We'd made ourselves untouchable in our mutual destruction. The funeral was small. His family blamed me. They weren't wrong. Michelle disappeared completely. The last anyone heard, she'd headed west, maybe California, maybe just away. Her parents told everyone she was dead to them. They moved churches to escape the shame. The ripples of destruction spread to everyone who'd ever loved either of them. Michelle's sister won't speak to her parents for disowning her. Ryan's brother fell into depression and drinking. The collapse of 3 lives created a dozen more casualties. I kept the screenshots. All of them. Evidence of their betrayal, of my revenge, of the complete annihilation that followed. Sometimes I scroll through them at night, trying to find the moment I could have stopped, could have chosen differently. But the truth is, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to hurt them more than I wanted to heal. I wanted them to suffer more than I wanted my daughter to have peace. The house is going into foreclosure next month. I'll move into a small apartment, start over with nothing. The money I stole went to lawyers, to debt, to trying to buy back my daughter's love with toys and trips she didn't want. Every dollar felt cursed. The satisfaction of revenge lasted 3 weeks. The consequences will last forever. My daughter wrote me a letter for my birthday. Mom, it said, I understand why you were angry. But I don't understand why you chose to be cruel. Dad did a bad thing. But you became a bad person. I love you, but I don't like who you are. Maybe someday you'll be someone I can trust again. But not today. She's 8 years old and already knows that love isn't enough when trust is gone. I see Ryan sometimes in my dreams. Not the Ryan who cheated, but the Ryan from our wedding day, young and hopeful and promising to love me forever. He asks me why I couldn't just let him go, why I had to destroy everything we'd built, even the good memories. I never have an answer. The rage is gone now, replaced by a hollow understanding that I became the villain in my own story. There's a special kind of loneliness reserved for people who've torched every bridge. It's not just being alone, it's knowing you lit the matches yourself. Every relationship feels fragile now because people know what I'm capable of when hurt. They keep their distance, share carefully, never quite trust. I've become a cautionary tale whispered at wine nights. Did you hear what happened with Ryan and Michelle? But honestly, what she did after was worse. I work, I sleep, I exist. There's no rebuilding from this kind of destruction. You can't unpoison a well. You can't unburn a bridge. You can't unbreak a child's heart. The revenge fantasies I'd had, where Ryan and Michelle suffered while I rose triumphant. They never included the part where my daughter looked at me with disappointment, where Ryan's mother sobbed at his funeral, where I became someone I couldn't recognize in the mirror. The last time I saw Michelle's mother, she was buying groceries. She looked through me like I didn't exist. But as she passed, she whispered, "You destroyed my family too." She was right. In my quest to punish 2 people, I detonated a bomb that left shrapnel in everyone who'd ever loved any of us. The waitress at the diner where Ryan and I used to take our daughter for pancakes every Sunday cried when she heard he died. His barber closed shop for a week. Michelle's grandmother died without reconciling with her. The destruction was absolute. People ask if I regret it. Of course I do. But not in the way they think. I don't regret leaving Ryan. I don't even regret exposing their affair. I regret becoming someone my daughter can't respect. I regret choosing nuclear war over strategic retreat. I regret that in trying to destroy them, I destroyed everything, including myself. Tomorrow I'll pack the last box, hand over the keys to the bank, and drive to an empty apartment where no memories live. I'll probably work until I'm too tired to think, then lie awake anyway, wondering if Michelle's still alive, if Ryan would have lived if I'd just divorced him quietly, if my daughter will ever call me mommy again without it sounding like an obligation. The worst part? There's no redemption arc here. No lesson that makes it worth it. Just the brutal truth that hurt people, and sometimes that hurt destroys everything it touches. I won. I got my revenge. I destroyed them both completely. And in the end, the person I punished most was an 8-year-old girl who just wanted her parents to love each other, or at least stop hurting everyone. Some victories are indistinguishable from defeat.